everybody. My name is Owen. I am a just recently breaching 900 rated player. I'm playing in MA2 as of recently, and I am hoping to get to MA1 some point here in 2025. But because I never got the opportunity to do an in the bag for 2024, I thought I'll do a what's gonna be in my bag for 2025 video. So for now, I have my bag here, and then as you can see, I have a little bit of a bag right beside me. This bag here is kind of going to be filled with stuff that either it has consideration to be in the bag, or there's versions in here that are complements to ones that are either in my bag or I want in the bag, kind of as molds. So I'll go through those as we go here, but that's kind of the gist of that. There's just going to be a couple of ones that I kind of wanted to bring up because they're pretty much honorable mentions. So first and foremost, because I know no one ever does this, I really want to. I'm going to go with the marker, my mini marker to start. This is my PDGA marker from last year, the MVP Nano. I dyed this when I was really early, starting with like shaving cream dyes and stuff. It looked a lot nicer when I started, but it has clearly faded since. So that's that. So then on top of that, we've got two putting putters here. I have both Castoplast Ricos. One of them is in a K3 hard plastic, and the other one is in just a K3 plastic. I wipe my stamps on my putters. It's just something I've always kind of done. It's a natural thing for me because I have the issue of trying to center something up in my hand, and with putting, that just makes my mental worse. So I've ensured that from now on I don't sit and line up putters by wiping my stamps. But a K3 hard and then a K3 Rico. So that's my putting putters. These guys have been tenured in the bag now for probably about 6 or so months each. The K3 has been beat up a lot more. I did actually use it for a little bit of throwing, but I've since stopped doing so. Yeah, we'll throw them down here then. So then next up, we'll go to the 1-speeds because obviously that's where you usually go with Castoplast if you have them in the bag. So first and foremost, I'll grab out the other two that are here in this slot. So I do have a lot of bergs, but I play a lot of courses around me that are a lot of shorter holes, 200 to 240 feet. These consistently and reliably get me that 2 to 220, 240 foot shot, gets me within putting distance. And so I always ensure that I have these in the bag because they're quintessential for that and for big up shots on par 4s. So I have a K3, which I've deemed lumpy. It's a very beat in K3 Berg. It's well tenured, that's for sure. Pardon the noise, by the way. There's a lot of kids at the park today. It's going to be like the last sunny day of the year, so I think we're all kind of taking advantage of it. But it is what it is. I do apologize for the noise. I don't have the money for a head mic right now. Next up, I've got a K3 hard, nice not perfect Berg. This guy is just in a nice blue color. This started out really straight for me, extremely straight actually. Like I would throw straight tunnel shots with this disc, and people would always ask me what it was because they were so surprised by it. But that thing is really nice. It started to beat into a little bit flippy now. My oldest tenured Berg is this K1 disc. It's kind of seen a lot. I've dyed it up. It started out as the very kind of odd orange color, not ugly, but just a clear orange. But I dyed it and I put kind of a mountain silhouette on the disc. I've loved this disc. It's been my baby. It got me my first MA3 win, and you know, just ever since it's been in the bag. Next up, I've got a Berg X. This is just a white red stamp that I dyed as well. Cool color scheme, nothing fancy. But I will admit that I did actually pay way more for this disc than I should have back when there was still a crap ton of hype for these, because I'm in Canada and some of these discs don't come around as often, and so the prices for them get a little artificially inflated. So the Berg X, I remember I paid 50 bucks Canadian for this, I think, and I regret that because they were stock priced about 2 weeks later, and I was a little upset with myself. And then finally in the Berg X category, this is the one that is kind of usurped this one because of its role. But the Stacy Ronsley K1 Hard, it's an actually decently stiff plastic. I do really like it, and it does warrant an actually overstable Berg X. I throw this guy on flex shots and stuff, and it actually does hyzer out. So that's a really cool disc. It's always just a little bit more reliable than this Berg X was for those sorts of fades. So those two are out of the bag right now. These three in. And then we'll move on to one of my non-Castoplast molds. I am not currently, as I make this video, sponsored by Castoplast, but I do have a team application in, so here's the hoping on that one. But I kind of play as if I had a Castoplast-based bag, and so the one thing is that I do definitely have a couple of non-Casta molds, and that is the Yukon Hammer. I know Adrian Chevalier uses the Tactic very similarly to this roll. He throws very straight shots with his Tactic. He has very beat up ones. So this is my very beat in, somewhat puddle topped Yukon Hammer. And then I've got a couple of these really cool magenta stamped Beehive Classic ones. I don't know what tournament exactly it's from, but it's Infinite Disc sponsored. So it was really cool to find these on their website, to have this stamp of the Beehive, and just have it on my favorite disc, the Yukon Hammer. I really can't understate how much I love this disc. I use it so often. My nickname on UDisc is actually Owen McDonald because this disc is my baby. This specific one, this got me my first skip ace, I think. Yeah, this was my first skip ace, so this disc is awesome. Seriously, cheap as hell. Go buy one. It's amazing. Finally, we're finishing up on the sort of putter pocket stuff. I've got one more disc there. That is a K3. I got the Moomin stamped Rico X. I really like the Rico X. I didn't at first because I think my first iteration of owning one was okay, pardon me. I had a K3, but at the time I didn't really understand the need for a beaded throwing putter. I was still a little bit new to the sport, so I gave that disc away. Very silly of me, for sure. But then I got a K1, never really loved that thing. And then I went back to the K3 with the Moomin stamp, and ever since I've fallen in love. These guys are great for straight shots. They'll flip up to straight, and then they can do like hyzer turnover flips. Like you can get them to, if you pump on it, they can really do a nice big bendy turn, but they'll still kind of flatten out at the end. Great disc. This is a very interesting controlled throwing putter. I know a lot of guys that have like a beat-in envy. This kind of will do a lot of that stuff, fly like it, have control, but it's not unnecessarily flippy in that way. So K3 Rico X, all the X and Z's. I forget about them sometimes. But okay, so now it's time to move on to my 4-speeds. I've got 2 of these right now in the bag, and then one on the sidelines, which might come in at one point. So first and foremost, we have my very first tournament ace disc, and this is the K3 Yota. I've beat this thing in very much. It's turned into a lumpy boy, but it is still fantastic. It has lots of integrity left to it. But you can throw it on big up hyzers and it will come and flip up and just hold nice. And it's an interesting line you can get out of this mid-range because it's not like it doesn't have any stability to it, because it has this weird feeling like bead to the bottom. But if you throw it hard enough, they are flippy and they will work for you in many different ways. So I understand why certain people don't like them, but I have an appeal to them. So then on top of that, the other one, which I actually just recently got a massive turnover ace with, was this K1 Clear Yota. This thing has this really nice gumminess feel to it. It's a fantastic disc. I dyed it myself. But this disc is great. Another somewhat turnover, but much more stable. I can really pump on this thing and give it really controlled turnovers. This pink one has gotten to the point it's so flippy anymore. But then this purple set, I got this one. It's like a light lavender purple. I do have a couple more of these pink ones, but I really just want to give this one a test to see if it should be very similar to the pink when it started out. So we're gonna give that a test, that's for sure. So then there's that, and there's those. Last 4-speed here is I have a K3 yarn. This guy is starting to get a little beat in, but it is still extremely overstable. Nice big S flex shot, huge, you know, like I can hand this thing over hard and know it's gonna want to come out. Really, really great utility disc for like that, like forehands, things like that. Oh yeah. So I've got, well, first and foremost, I'll go with the disc that kind of used to be in that slot and is still kind of consideration here. But I used to throw the C-Line Metal Flake MD3 a whole lot. This is the disc that got me my very first ace, actually. It was a fantastic disc, and I really, really love it. Yeah, apologies for the noise. A lot of yelling right now. But this was the disc that got me my very first ace. And it's ever since been just one of my favorite discs to throw. The MD3 is incredible, and there's a good chance that it'll probably be that third mold in my bag. Just right now, I'm still jumping through a few molds, but trying to just solidify the bag. And then yeah, I cut a couple of more of the Metal Flake MD3s. The green ones I find are a little more overstable than reds, but they're both really nice. And so then next up, I've got 2 discs. One of them is a first run of the Nord. I got this from a guy here in Canada. This is a really nice, I wouldn't call it 03 disc, I'd call it maybe 02, 01.5. I've tried forehanding this disc. I don't find it to work super well for that. It flutters a lot. But so then in its place has come the Luke Sampson Nord. That guy is actually overstable. It has a little bit more dome, I would say, but its shoulder feels a little higher in the hand. And it just flies a little more overstable. I'm not really sure what the difference is, but this one's not in the bag, but this could kind of go either way dependent right now. I'm still doing a lot of testing on that. But the Nord's definitely a disc that's going in my bag for those big flex shots. It's really fantastic. And then next up, I have probably my favorite disc, mid-range wise, I would say. Probably my favorite disc mid-range wise of all time so far, and that would be the Castaplast CAC Z. For Canadians, it is Z. I know for Americans, you call it the CAC Z, but for us, it's the Z. But this is kind of the spread of them right now. I literally have everything from crazy overstable all the way down to like flippy. But to go through it, this is my very first owned CAC Z ever. This disc has seen a lot. It saw my very first successful shaving cream dye that I ended up keeping. And it also ended up getting stolen from me, and the lady took it and she wiped out the name with like sandpaper on the back here. I have confirmed with every card mate I ever play with, I promise. I confirm with them that they are okay with me playing with this disc tournament-wise, because I know how people feel about the whole sandpapering thing, but I also ensure to let them know when I grip it right up here, which is not where the sandpapering gets to your fingers anyway. So, just so everybody on the video knows, I am no cheater. I do not use the sandpaper for an advantage. Some lady decided she wanted to try to ruin my day and my disc, but she could not get me. I found it. The other one that's overstable, this one is semi-overstable, but this one's overstable somewhat, is the actual pre-flight number, CAC Z. I got this from a guy here. Actually, sorry, I got it from a guy in Sweden. This was the one I got from Sweden. got it lightly used, but the dude was super awesome, shipped it over to me in like bulletproof packaging, and yeah, I was so excited to get this disc. This disc has been amazing. And then, so this one I got here is a 167 gram, it's a slightly lighter weight, but this is a fantastic thrower. I've gotten this disc out to distances close to my fairways or even distance drivers. But it's kind of dependent on wind. This thing can really get lost in a wind badly. And then kind of similarly, this CAC-Z in K3 is getting to a point where it can get lost really bad in wind, and it's not so much a stable disc as it used to be. But when these start out in the K3, these are actually a pretty overstable disc, so I really like them. And then finally, the K1 Soft boy. This guy's actually got an ace on it. It's a cubby ace, so like a practice throw ace. But this one's got a little ace on it too. It's just such a straight, controllable. It is flippy, but it's because mostly I never really throw this thing on full power. I know it has a bit of flip to it. You can power up on this thing and make it flippy, but it's a fantastic disc for straight tunnel lines, knowing it's going to hold straight. It doesn't really have any stability to speak of. Weirdly, because comparatively these discs should be so similar, but the K1 Soft, there's a mile of difference basically. It's really interesting to see. So those also have considerations in the bag for sure. But the ones that kind of fill out, the one that's been filling out that sort of flippy CAC-Z slot right now is my Clay Edwards Beam Stig. This thing is so good. So good. I'm gonna put a flash up of the picture of the drive that I have with this thing. There's a hole that goes about 100 feet downhill near me in Ontario here. It's one of our best courses, but this one hole is pretty amazing because the long shoots 400 feet downhill, and I accidentally flipped this thing way too much, and it just held, and it went, and it went, and it went, and it never, like it, I mean, you're gonna see it went out to 530 feet. Like, it went forever. And I'm not a big thrower. I have maybe 450 feet of arm on my biggest distance driver throws. So this thing going that distance, even downhill that way, was just incredible. Go pick yourself one of these up, seriously. If it's not one of these, then pick up one of the stock runs, because they all, from what I've heard, fly further than a 6-speed should. Maybe I'm going crazy, but I feel like it's true. So next up, it's the only 7-speed I have in my bag, and I've been long awaiting this disc. I know a lot of us have. This is my first run iDog, or eDoog as they call it. It's a double stamp, the blue and the gold. I really love the look of the double stamp on this guy. It's overlapping. Not much to say, truly. It is a perfect 7.5. I guess we'll say negative 0.52. Like, it's right in that slot, at least for me anyway. I can put it on little flex lines knowing it's going to fight, but it's not fighting left, it's fighting back to straight. If I throw it hard and straight, it's going to push left, not fight left. It's just going to fade left, like a Thunderbird or like a T-Bird is intended to. I really think they hit the nail on the head with this disc. You give it the right lines, it does exactly what you intend of it. I really appreciate that out of Castablast, because I know they work really hard on their numbers, and they work really hard on ensuring these discs are perfect. Sometimes just the way the world works and the way the plastic works, the discs don't fly right, but these things are awesome, and I really appreciate the fact that these have hit the number so hard. Yeah, so moving on, now we move to the 9 speeds, and this is where it gets a little juicy. Got that. So for right now, specifically, I have 4 of the Castaplast Lutes in the bag. We'll start with the most flippy. This is the one that holds the most weight to me. This is my original, I think it's like an October 2022 run of the blue Lutes. I got this way back, like I think it was maybe I'd been 3 weeks into this sport, and I ordered some discs, and this was the one that came from my fairway driver slot. Not to get crazy sappy here, but it genuinely was one of the discs that pushed me into the sport and got me to enjoy the sport. The disc flies fantastic. It flew fantastic from the beginning. I wouldn't say this is a flippy run, but they're a slightly less stable run with a nice dome, so you can ensure that they're going to have stability at the end. But that is where this one comes in. This is the exact same run. It's like, if I look at the sort of date print numbers they put on it, 22-10-01 for this one and 22-10-01 for this one. There's only a gram of difference in weight here, but they fly nearly exactly the same. This one's even got a really cool custom stamp, so that's something I love. And then from there, I have this one I would call stable. It's got a bit of flip to it, but it's still more stable than most of the lutes that I've thrown, and this is a first run. Pretty beat in. It's got lots of wear to it. It's even got some like bleeding ring to it, which was from the previous owner. He had it stored with a red disc, but I got it for a great deal, and it's still a fantastic thrower. And so, you know, I'm very happy that I was able to get my hands on that one. And then the other, and this is the most overstable run of lutes that I have, and I know a lot of the pros actually, this is for them the most overstable run they've found, is the Joey B K1 Hard Lutes. Big ups to Joey for winning at Idlewild this year. That was friggin' awesome, dude. Nearly watching you throw in on hole 18 was sick. I know you're probably not watching this, but if you do, seriously, hit me up. I'd love to play around with you, man. So yeah, that is that. Those are my lutes, other than the one I got in here, which is a little bit of a gemstone. This guy is a 162 gram. They call it, there's kind of this was a poison green run, but I know there was also a lime run of these discs that came in, like, they weren't as bright green like this. This is a 162. The other ones I think in the lime run were like 164, 165, because I've owned a couple of those. But this one, I know how rare the super light cast it can be, and so I've kind of stored this one away, and I keep it because I know if my original does ever get crazy flippy on me, then this could potentially be that guy right out of the box. Also, I didn't mention, but keep the little paw drawing I put on here for my dog we lost last year in November. She was a German Shepherd dog. She was just the most stubborn little pain in the butt, but she was incredible. She loved us and was so loyal. So yeah, she's got her paw drawn on my disc. So now we get to move on to, other than, pardon me, no we don't. We have to talk about my Raptor first. This is the other non-cast glass mold that I bag. I am not a non-fan of the stall, but I cannot forehand them. I've not found a run. I've tried, but with Casta being a little harder to find in Canada, I've just not found a stall run that I really like. And so this ESP Raptor, this works for me. It's nice and board flat, nice and not super high parting line, but this one I think is also in like a 167 weight. So it flies a little lighter for my forehand, which is not super fantastic. I'm a mainly backhand player, so this thing works. This worked wonders for me in situations where I need a forehand. Okay, now we're done with the 9 speeds, and we're on to the final few discs of the video. I've got 2 Elvas in the bag right now. Elva is how I believe it's pronounced from what I've seen. Gotta love the Swedish pronunciations. I'm terrible with them, but I try my best. This one has been in my bag since basically the rollout of the first run Elvas. I got this from a local supplier, and he was awesome about it. He got it to me like the day after he got them in. So I was throwing this thing, and I have been beating the crap out of it ever since. It's a fantastic fairway, fantastic distance driver that feels like a fairway. To me, My description of it was that it flies like the perfect wraith, the first runs at least. I know that the stock Alvas have been said to be a little bit more flippy, so they're not the same disc, but these first run Alvas are, they have this stability at the end of the flight that's just trustable. I know this one has started to lose a little bit of that because I've used it so much, but that's why there is a second one in the bag prepared to be in its place. This one's max weight too, and this one I think was 173. Yeah, this was 173. So it's interesting to see a little bit of the compliment because this one is still nice and stable for me. First run Alva's done, and then I will mention quickly as the last honorable, the one distance driver that I've always kind of considered in the bag but is not always in the bag depending on usage is the Voss. I have this one in the kind of lavender purple. It's a nice disc, but this is the most flippy run that I think have found, but I still have to do some more comparisons here because the one thing I have found is that this bad boy as well is pretty flippy. I was very surprised by the dude Jesse Neiman and Voss. I thought it was going to be a little bit more stable because my first runs are a very controllable flippy, and this is what I would bag if I put the Voss in. These are the ones, one of these will fill in that slot. But I had bought this intending for it to be that, and I've only noticed it to be more flippy right out of the box. So I'd love to hear your guys' comment on the Jesse Tour Voss because it to me is a very flippy disc. I may have just got a really flat one. I know that all the Vosses are pretty flat, but yeah, I really am. I'm curious. Let me know your guys' opinion on that disc because I've heard great stuff, and then I threw it, and I was just very, I don't want to say underwhelmed, but shocked that it didn't have more stability than a lot of the Vosses I've thrown. So now we get to kind of my last two. Well, this is my last two, but this is the last two that are probably my coolest. We'll go by speed, so we'll start with the Cherry Red. This is my Pop Top Grimex. If any of you know of Charlie Goodpasture, or have watched any of his In the Bags, or watched him throw on Throw Down the Mountain, or any of the Jomez coverage, you've probably seen him throwing a red driver, or heard Jeremy Colling talk about it. This is the holy grail of Castaplast from pre-House of Discs. There was not a lot of runs of the Grimex that came out really overstable, like intended, with the numbers of like 12,503 that they gave it. But this red one did that. This was a lot like a Force. It's very domey. The shoulder is super high compared to pretty much any other Grimex I've ever tested. And it flies incredibly. It is overstable. I can mash on this thing as hard as I want on some Annie, and I know it's gonna at least pan back to flat. It doesn't hold turn. It will fight. So this guy has been a real quintessential piece in my bag. I would like to thank Alex Rainville. If any of you here in Canada are Casta fans and know of Alex, you know of just how much influence he has on Castaplast in Canada, and he was the one who hooked me up with this one, and I really appreciate that. So big ups there. And then finally, this one was from an American Castaplast icon in John Kovacs, but this is a blueberry pre-flight number Grim. This one is the domiest I've ever seen, easily, like actually domey Grim, and it has a really high parting line comparatively to all of the others that I've ever thrown. Meaning that while it has some flip to it, it always fights. This is a very good S-line disc. This has become one of my longest throwing discs, one of my best trustworthy long throwing discs, because I know that at the very end of the flight, no matter what, it's going to fight. So this is huge for me in a lot of cases, and it's become a bit of a crutch. So thank you, John. Thank you to everybody, seriously, who has helped me hook up on any of the discs that I have today. Clay Edwards helped me with the first run iDogs. Charlie Goodpasture has helped me out with a couple more Pop Top Grimexes, and he got me a first run Lutz as well. There's so many people. I really got too many to thank at the end of this video. I don't want to waste too much more of you guys' time here, but seriously, if you play the sport, you know what I mean when I say there's just so many people you could thank for filling out your bag. But that's it. This is the big old pile of discs. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope to see some of you guys on my 2025 tour. It's not really a tour, it's just me going to a bunch of tournaments that I can afford as best as I can. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you all, and have a great day.